My friends, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is a brand new film from Tim Burton and is the follow-up sequel to the 1988 classic Beetlejuice. This new film brings back Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, and Catherine O'Hara, and also brings in some new faces like Jenna Ortega. And the biggest questions that I had going into this was, will this live up to the legacy original, and also will it be a worthwhile sequel? That is what I'm going to be talking about today. This is my spoiler-free review for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, so make sure you smash like, subscribe if you're new here, and let's set this juice loose. I'm sorry, that sounded weird. But okay, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, and I'm gonna hold off from saying it a third time. 3 generations of the Deetz family return home to Winter River after an unexpected family tragedy. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life soon gets turned upside down when her rebellious teenage daughter discovers a mysterious portal to the afterlife. When someone says Beetlejuice's name 3 times, the mischievous demon gleefully returns to unleash his very own brand of mayhem. And let's talk about this a little bit. So it's very rare. It almost seems impossible that you could have this classic movie and then have a sequel greenlit 36-ish years later, and you have several of the main cast returning, including the star, Michael Keaton himself, and you also have the same director and the same composer. That is wild to me. It feels like it shouldn't be a thing, but it is. And this movie could not have worked without all of that. I'd say that Beetlejuice 2 succeeds majorly in one area, and that is that it nails the feel. And all of those different elements coming together have a lot to do with that. This sequel feels like it was made in 1989 or 1990 or something like that. It exists and stands next to the original. And for people that might be hesitant about seeing this movie or hesitant that it might ruin the original for you or something like that, I feel like you can breathe easy when you hear that, because you go in and you watch this movie and you very quickly realize that Tim Burton didn't try to get crazy with it. There are some small CGI tidbits that are obviously a little bit better than they would have been back then, but then there's some like claymation going on, and I don't know, his ability to put us right back in that world, it's just crazy to me. Something else that I want to note early on is that Danny Elfman, the iconic composer of a lot of Burton's stuff, as well as just so many others, he returned as well. And so it's all there for you to enjoy. And while you're watching it, you're feeling that. And my initial thoughts upon walking out of the movie was that I was satisfied. I wasn't blown away or really surprised, I guess. And obviously the fan man, I should say, in me walking out, I could be a little bit disappointed in that, but I think being satisfied is more than I could have asked for. What I would say is that this movie was more in line with what I expected from Tim Burton rather than what I had hoped for from Tim Burton. And I'll start with the flaws and then I'll kind of work my way to the good stuff here. So something that's different to this film compared to the first film is this movie has a plot A and a plot B running together simultaneously. Whereas the first movie, you have the Maitlands, they go down to the bridge, they die, they come back to the house, they're haunting the house, the family moves in, somebody says Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice 3 times, and Beetlejuice comes back and then everybody's singing and dancing and it's awesome. But this film right away splits in a couple different directions and it introduces us to a bunch of different characters, some more compelling than others. And I want to touch on a couple. Like my least favorite would have to be Monica Bellucci's character. And it's unfortunate because the trailer kind of got me hyped on her and she's a great actress, but I think you'll find that when you watch this movie, that whole storyline just doesn't need to be there. It doesn't serve much purpose. It doesn't move the film forward. The only thing that it does is let us exist in the afterlife a little more, maybe, and some of that might be an attempt to give us a little more Beetlejuice, but it doesn't really work because just like the first movie, he's not around very much. And so if you're gonna use him about as much as you did in the first movie, just do that. There's no need to expand on anything relating to him because we don't need to know Beetlejuice because he's just Beetlejuice. Like, that's what makes him iconic. And I don't want to get into any spoiler territory here. I will just say that there is another small subplot within this film with Jenna Ortega. And to me, it purely just felt like a device that was shoved into this movie just to get us from point A to point B. She spends some time with this other character, and my thought is that one of these needed to go. One of these could have been left on the cutting room floor. You either flesh out Monica's character or this other subplot, because there is a really good movie sandwiched into this thing, and that's what's gonna keep me coming back. The storyline between Astrid and Lydia, Winona Ryder and Jenna Ortega, is fantastic. The relationship between anybody who grew up in the 90s goth girl and then our very own modern goth girl You get these two together, and it's magic, man. And Tim Burton gave us this really nice mother-daughter story that had to do with acceptance and grief and loss and growing up. I just loved the clear duality showcased of what it looks like to be a teen versus what it looks like to be an adult. Because Lydia in the first movie is this hard-headed teen, but now she's grown up, and age brings anxiety and trepidation and fear and so many other things. I know from experience. But when you're young, you're just dumb and headstrong and wild. And so watching Lydia raise a new Lydia, basically, while dealing with her own, Justin Thoreau hilarious problem, was awesome. And it was also very emotional. They tied it together in a very clever way, and so even with the plots getting a little bit convoluted, the way that things kind of wrapped up ended up leaving me on a very satisfied note. Also, side note, if anybody was worried that Jenna Ortega is just gonna be Wednesday Addams in this, I'll say that they did a good enough job separating the characters. She's got a little more life in this, albeit not much, but a little more. But then there is Beetlejuice, and Michael Keaton just continues to surprise me, man. Like, I didn't think he could do this, and he did. He absolutely did. He freaking killed it. And the writing was really on point for him. He was hilarious. The performance was just chef's kiss. And he's not as spry as he used to be. That's no secret, but they figured it out. He's the same old ghost with the most, and I think that's what I'm most excited about. We have another awesome Beetlejuice performance to watch around Halloween, and the more the merrier for this time of year. I need movies to watch at this time of year. But I do have 3 more things that I want to talk about. 2 of them are just shout outs to performances. The first being Catherine O'Hara. It's just very funny to me how she went from being like my least favorite character in the first movie to like one of my favorite characters in this whole franchise. She's near the top of the list. She's not quite there, but man, she did such a great job in this movie. She can do so much more than just being Kevin's mom, and I feel like I realized that when watching this. And I said she wasn't quite my favorite because this next one is easily my favorite performance of this movie and maybe even of the first movie. That is Willem Dafoe. And in a time that's like, gosh, this guy is just in everything. And it's almost to the point where it's starting to be like, oh yeah, Willem Dafoe's in that. Oh yeah, it's him again. This role proves why he is in everything. He plays this dead actor turned afterlife detective. And the comedy that surrounds that is absolutely priceless. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, just get ready, man, because it's awesome. And let me know what you guys thought about his performance. But finally, and once again, I do want to shout out Bob. Just kidding. I wanted to shout out how well they did with the effects and the wardrobe and the costumes and the makeup. This movie was gross and dirty and funny and zany and exactly what you'd want out of a sequel. It felt like it needed to for the sequel. It looked like it needed to for the sequel all these years later. This is Tim Burton playing in his wheelhouse, and I don't know, with this and Wednesday over the last couple of years, it just seems like it's safe to say he's not going anywhere. This movie was a little long for my taste, and it wasn't a perfect movie, but when you're dealing with Tim Burton, it's just like, whatever, man. You do you, Tim. But as for my star rating of Beetlejuice, I'm giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. No doubt. But my friends, what did you think of this movie? If you saw it, let me know all of your thoughts down below. If you haven't seen it, let me know. Are you gonna go see it this weekend? Do you like the original? Let me know all of that down below. Also, make sure you smash like, subscribe, and keep up the good vibes, my friends. Peace!